Okay, so in a recent live broadcast I did on my YouTube channel, I went through the retouch of this female portrait and in there very quickly showed how I evened out the skin tones. Now this was done very quick, so I thought I'd record another video going through it step by step and also let you know that I've recorded an action in Photoshop that you can download. Right, let's crack on. When we look at this portrait, we can see that the skin tones on her forehead are different to the skin tone around her hairline. To fix this, we need to work on the colour without affecting the detail. So we need to somehow separate the image so that we have the colour and detail on separate layers, so we can work on one without affecting the other. And this is how we do it. In fact, here I have an action that I've made to do exactly this. This one here called Skin Fix. So I'll press play. You can see now that this action has created a group called Skin Fix. And if we open this up, we see there are 3 layers. The top layer is called Details. And if I turn every other layer off, we can see here that the layer doesn't contain colour, but it does contain details, which you can see really clearly if I zoom in. Now there's also a layer called Colour. If I turn every other layer off and only show this layer, we can see that the image is blurred, so there are no defined areas and sharp details. We can see this is a portrait, but because we've blurred it slightly, it's more a collection of colours. Above this layer, we have a blank layer, and this is the layer we will use to correct any colour issues rather than working directly on the colour layer itself. For example, I'll click on the blank layer. Then I'll zoom in on the area of skin that I want to work on. I can then use a multitude of different tools to fix the colour. For example, I'll use the gradient tool. So I'll choose the gradient tool from the toolbar or press G. Then in the options bar at the top of the screen, it's very important that I choose Classic Gradient. I'll then choose a gradient from the Basics folder, and the one I need to choose is the foreground to transparent, and that is really important. I'll also choose a radial gradient. Now that I have that, I'll hold down the Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows and click to sample an area of skin. The colour is now set as the foreground colour, which we can see in the toolbar. So if I want to fix the colour, all I need to do is drag out a gradient. The great thing is that only the colour is being affected. All of the detail remains untouched, and that's because the details layer is above everything else in the layer stack. So I can continue to fix the colour, adding more gradients because I'm using the foreground to transparent gradient option. But what I will do is keep sampling different area of skin. So as I do this, it helps it to blend together much more realistically. Now I could also use a brush to do this. So I'll grab a normal round brush with 0% hardness, and I'll set the flow to around 20% so that I can gradually build up the effect. I'll sample the skin colour by holding down the Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows and clicking down on the area, and then I simply start brushing over the area that I want to fix. Again, as I move along, I would continue sampling different areas of skin. Now, as you can see, this works really well, and it's kind of like a dumbed down version of what's known as frequency separation. And this is how we set it up. Let's remove all of these layers here and go back to the original background layer. I'll then duplicate the background layer by holding down the Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows and pressing J. And I'll rename it Colour. Then I'll duplicate this layer by holding down the Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows and pressing J, and I'll rename this one Detail. Now that's done, let's get the colour on the colour layer and the detail on the detail layer. We'll do the colour layer first. I'll turn off the detail layer and click on the colour layer so that it's active. Then I'll go to Filter, Blur and Gaussian Blur. Now this portrait was taken with a 100 megapixel Hasselblad X2D, So I'm going to blur this around 7 pixels. If I'd shot this with my Sony a7R IV, which is 61 megapixels, I'd maybe go for 5 pixels in here. So anywhere from 5 to a maximum of 10 is good, depending on the megapixels of the camera you used. I'll click OK, and now we've lost the sharpness and the detail. We can still tell what it is, but because of the blur, we have different shapes of colour, but no real detail. Next, I'll click on the detail layer and turn it on. I'll go to Image and Apply Image. Source is the file that we have open and we're working on. Layer, now this is where we need to choose the colour layer. We have the channel as RGB. I put a tick in the invert checkbox, and I change the blend mode to add. You should see now that the scale is set to 2 and the offset is set to 0. If they're not, then just manually add that and then click OK. Then we change the blend mode of the details layer to linear light. So now we see everything back in full colour. So if we turn every layer off apart from the detail, we can see the detail. And if we turn every layer off except for the colour, we can see the slightly blurred non-sharp image, which is the colour layer. I'll now add the blank layer in between these two and rename it Colour Fix. And let's put all of these into a group. So I'll click on the detail layer, hold the Shift key and click on the colour layer. So now all 3 layers are highlighted. I'll then go to the flyout menu in the top right of the Layers panel and choose New Group from Layers and name this Skin Fix. I'll also give the group a colour so it stands out in the Layers panel and I know where it is. I'll make this one red. And then click OK. Now we have it all set up and ready to use. So like I said, I've recorded an action for these steps and it's been recorded in such a way that means you could actually use this at any stage of the retouching process, no matter what layers you already have. The action I've made available to everyone in my email group, so if you'd like it, just head over to my website, join the community and I'll email you straight back with the download, as well as my Limestorm black and white preset for Lightroom and Camera Raw, and a PDF I've written about how to develop your own unique style. Right, that's all I have for this video, so I'd really appreciate a thumbs up if you've got anything from this, and if you haven't yet, click on subscribe because that's just a great free way that you can support this channel. But for now, that's me, I'm done. I'll see you in the next one.